5 working days following this meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Monday, September 30th at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission for a hearing on Tuesday, October 15th at or after 9 a.m. The affected parties will be notified of the meeting date, and meetings of the County Commission are held in this same room. First on the agenda is public input. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are perceived to be non-controversial and meet all of the requirements of the codes and regulations. The consent agenda will be acted on in one motion with no public hearing on the items unless a member of the public, the commission, or staff requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. The minutes from the August 26th meeting are included in the consent agenda. Does any Planning Commission member wish to have an item removed for discussion?
Madam Chair, I would
Jeff?
like to hear more about item number 2 and item number 7.
Okay, those 2 items will be moved to the regular agenda. Next, I will read each item on the consent agenda and ask if there are any issues or comments from the staff or the audience. If any member of the staff or the audience would like to be heard on the item, please raise your hand and the item will be moved to the regular agenda to allow you to address the commission later in the meeting. Any items remaining on the consent agenda will be approved by the Planning Commission with the conditions recommended by staff. Okay, the first item is the approval of the minutes of August 26, 2019. Item number 2 will be removed to the regular agenda. Item number 3, conditional use permit 19-38 to allow building for office space and inventory storage for commercial seed sales business on the property, legally described as the northeast quarter, except the south 33 feet, and the north half, the northwest quarter, except north 355.9 feet, and the west 297 feet, and except H1, Section 17, Township 104 North, Range 47 West. The petitioner is Taylor Elverson. The property owner is Tom Elverson. It is located approximately 4 miles north of Sherman, 48575 246th Street. From the audience or the staff wish to be heard on this item? Item number 4, conditional use permit 19-39 to exceed 2,400 square feet of total accessory building area, requesting 3,300 square feet on the property legally described as Tract 2A, Langen Subdivision, Northwest Quarter, Southwest Quarter, Section 2, Township 101 North, Range 48 West. Petitioner is Rod Hokey. He's also the property owner. 26253 McCarty Road, located approximately 1 mile south of Brandon. Does anyone from the staff or the audience wish to be heard on this item? Item number 5, conditional use permit 19-40 to allow a Class C 900 animal unit concentrated animal feeding operation on the property legally described as Tract 2, Anderson Additions, North Half, Section 10, Township 102 North, Range 48 West. Petitioner is Wyatt Sunvold. Property owner is Candace Joe Anderson, 48152 Palisade Street, located approximately 4 miles north of Brandon. Does anyone from the audience or the staff wish to be heard on this item? Did I see a hand? Okay. We'll remove that item to the regular agenda. That's item number 5. Item number 6 is conditional use permit 19-41 to expand current dairy operation up to a maximum of 7,700 animal units or 5,500 head on the property legally described as the southeast quarter, Section 20, Township 102 North, Range 52 West. Petitioner is Turner County Dairy. That property owner is the same. Walt Bones is the president. It is 2.5 miles southeast of Humboldt. Anyone from the audience or the staff wish to be heard on this item? Item number 8's been removed to the regular agenda. Or number 7, I'm sorry. Item number 8 is continued use permit 19-43 to transfer one building eligibility from Lot 1, Moody County Dairy Subdivision, Government Lots 1 and 2, to Lot 1 and 2, except Lot 1, Moody County Dairy Subdivision, all in the southeast quarter, Section 10, Township 104 North, Range 47 West. Petitioner is Moody County Dairy LP. Owner is Lynn Bodwine, 48790 246th Street, located approximately 4 miles north of Sherman. Does anyone from the audience or the staff wish to be heard on this item? So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda except for item number 2, item number 5, and item number 7.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. For those items that have been approved, you are free to go.
Or stay.
Item number 2, David?
Good evening, Planning Commission. David Heinold, County Planning Department. Conditional use permit 19-37 is an amendment to a couple of different conditional use permits to expand sand and gravel mining area limits on the property that's located about just northeast of Brandon by about 1.5 miles there. You can see the entire property is outlined in red, which encompasses about a little over 150 acres. The proposed expansion, hold on a second. As you can see, the proposed expansion would be highlighted in yellow on the overhead screen. It goes all the way. So this is the state highway that comes up from Brandon from I-9, Interstate I-90 there. And then it goes all the way over to, the proposal would bring it all the way over to the county highway, this is a full mile. And this area right here is outlined about approximately 90 acres in total. There is an existing house, which all of the property within these boxes is owned by the applicant, Sweetman Construction. The property there, the house that is located within this area is owned by the applicant, and if this proposal goes forward, then that house would potentially go away, depending on the future conditions. The applicant has mentioned that it would be an additional 12 years on top of what they've already been doing in terms of sand and gravel mining. They've provided a description of the mining operations to be approximately 50 feet down from the original surface, but may go deeper, depending on the subsurface conditions that are there. Staff went out to the property on September 12th. There was a bit of flooding, so we had to go out and around the property and couldn't get to it from the site because going through and touring the entire thing, and then took some pictures of the site itself that's highlighted in yellow and going around that entire thing, which is currently, right now, is agriculture, is just corn. There are a few residences in the immediate vicinity. One is here. There is a zoning ordinance requirement that the applicant has to meet for a 1,000-foot buffer. The applicant's waiver, or the waiver, has been signed by that property owner that lives to the northwest of the yellow area on this map. There are a few additional residences in the area. There's one right here, and then there's one right here. As you can see on the map, you can kind of see the driveways there. And then there's additional houses that are located to the south along this gravel road, which is, it heads back towards the highway and connects the two. There is a gun club that is located right here, that long rectangular piece there. Actually, it's located just to the south of this parcel right here. This is one of the residences that is located there. But beyond that 1,000-foot setback, there is only one residence within that 1,000-foot setback, as I've mentioned. The applicant does plan to stay at least 500 feet from all of the right-of-ways, as you've seen in some of the site plans, in terms of from the property lines to the county highway and the township gravel roads. The only access to the property would be for basically emergency standpoint, because a lot of the operation does operate off a conveyor belt system from the main plant terminal that would eventually, it would go all the way basically straight east. And then from there it would be on rail and trucks. So trucks go within the property all the way out to the state highways. So there's no need for additional haul routes identified. The applicant has mentioned in the narrative that those would only be an emergency route, which would be located, you'll see in some of the pictures that I've taken, that's located right on this part of the property to the northwest corner towards that residence. So basically, I got the site plan. Okay. Here's just basically the overall limits of the existing mining and the proposed mining area that the applicant has laid out. And then going into, this is where the proposed mining operation would be expanded. You can see the highway is right here. As I mentioned, that 500-foot distance would be that buffer between the mining operation and the highway. And then the residence right here would be located, that's the one within 1,000 feet, which the waiver has been obtained. And then the elevation profile was off to the bottom of that image. This just shows the contours of the site, what it is now. As you can see, the existing contours, pretty wavy. And then this would be the restored conditions after mining. Restoring it back to agriculture would be has been stated in the narrative. Just going through some of the pictures, as I mentioned, this is the conveyor belt that's being used on the site as it exists today. You can see in the background, that kind of in the foreground, there's the corn off in the distance, and you can see the wall there. That's where the sand mining currently terminates. And beyond that, you can see the High Line in the distance. That's kind of the marker right there. That would be going further behind that would be the proposed mining area. This is just showing that emergency access that would be located. This is how you get to the existing mining area, and then off to the left, as you can see, the corn is there. That's where the proposed area would be. This is showing from the county highway off to the east. This is looking back towards, as you can see, the High Line off in the distance there. That basically bisects the existing and the proposed areas. And then, so this is showing the sand mining area with the conveyor belt, and then the existing plants off in the distance that are located closer to the State Highway 11. This is looking to the northwest, or basically northwest. You can see the sand in the foreground, and then there is a row of corn there that's separating that sand area from the township gravel road, and then that house within 1,000 feet. This is just showing this is basically just a zoomed in view of that same photo off to the northwest. This is that house within 1,000 feet that's located to the northwest of the proposed mining area. And then this is the this is the township gravel road that heads back off towards State Highway 11. And then this is just showing where that would end up towards the railroad line that gets shipped off. And then this is that long driveway off to the house that would be located within the middle of the proposed mining area. Okay, skipped around there. And this is what would be the truck route to get to and from the sites to the east, as there are multiple ways for getting the material off to the highway. This was taken when the water was flooded, and I've had a few other pictures there, but this goes all the way out and around, just for your information. So a few other things that I'd like to go through. I've already went through the effect upon the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the uses already permitted upon property values in the immediate vicinity. The hours of operation itself, just going through it really quickly, are the same for the operation. Maintenance operations not creating off-site noise may occur outside of the designated hours of operation. 2, the effect upon the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. The land that's used for reclaiming the land to the maximum slopes, 3-to-1, anticipated to return to agricultural land. The area is primarily, there's commercial land in the area, residents or houses in the area, and agriculture surrounds the property. So there should be no effect on the normal and orderly development of vacant property, which is determined upon the number of building eligibilities and or municipal annexation and development. 3, that the utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities are provided. The petitioner has supplied for your review a hydrologic study that states the natural drainage to Split Rock Creek, which is off in the distance of the property. The proposed mining expansion area will collect and infiltrate stormwater within the pit. There is a small intermittent stream to the south of the proposed mining area, but will not be impacted because it'll be protected from mining runoff in accordance with their stormwater pollution prevention plan. So no access is used from the north on 259th Street or east on 484th Avenue, as material is moved by the existing means, by the conveyor belt and the truck system. 4, the off-street parking and loading requirements are met. The applicant has not provided any details regarding parking and loading. As you've seen in the image with the access for trucking, there is parking located at the main building and warehouse, so any parking would have to be at that location or within the pit itself. 5, that measures are taken to control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, and lighting inclusive of lighted signs so that none of these will constitute a nuisance. The applicant has proposed in the narrative to provide the buffering that is required by the zoning ordinance from the northeast and south sides, which would be along the proposed area. The buffer zones will have a mix of shelter belts that will reduce dust, noise, and visual impacts from surrounding properties, as well as passersby. The use of rail transportation to and from the pit will lessen the impacts on the roads, as well as reduce air emissions and carbon footprint impacts. 6, health, safety, and general welfare of the public and the comprehensive plan. The Envision 2035 Comprehensive Plan, goal number 5, states to recognize that sand and gravel deposits within the county are non-renewable natural resource and beneficial to the economy of the county and the welfare of the people. That being said, there should be no significant negative harm to the health, safety, and general welfare of the public in the comprehensive plan with the proposed addition of an existing sand and gravel mining operation. So staff finds that the conditional use permit to expand existing sand and gravel mining extraction site is an appropriate land use for the surrounding area and conforms to the goals and policies of the Envision 2035 Comprehensive Plan. Staff has reviewed all the past conditional use permit applications and has put the proposed conditions in this conditional use permit and recommends approval of conditional use permit 19-37 for the sand and gravel mining operation. And there are the 24 conditions. As I've mentioned, that does include conditions from the prior conditional use permits to include all of those. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Madam Chair?
For him?
David, so with the 12 years added on, does that add on 12 years to the entire development or the area? I see he's raising his hand in the back here, and he'll comment on it. So then, if I might ask, is there an example of any of this area having been reclaimed at this point?
Yes, there are, in my site visit, there are areas that have been reclaimed
Okay.
with seeded.
And then finally, let me ask, I know we had an issue a couple years back with stray bullets coming from the gun club. Have there been any, do we know if there have been any issues from that going forward?
To my knowledge, there haven't
No,
been
in the
any.
back. We can wait for him.
Any other questions for David? Okay, is a petitioner here? Will you please come forward and state your name and address?
My name is Billy Palma, 6111 South Surrey Hill Court, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So I'm the Aggregate Division Manager for Concrete Materials. So I oversee the operations here, out here at the Corson plant. So a couple things to note. So the total acres there in red, it's roughly 750 acres. Which the yellow includes that is in that 750 acres. The yellow area is roughly 150. We've been mining there since 2001. I think that dates the first conditional use permit. 2007, I think we amended it to add some additional acres in there. To answer your question on the years, this area would add roughly 5 years in there. So the total that we see for life at this location yet is roughly 12 years left in the total sand deposit at this location. Obviously then we'd be looking at another location outside this property. So when it comes to reclaim, obviously it would be reclaimed back into farm ground, pasture ground, whatever we can. We strip off the next area, stockpile the topsoil, and then put that back in and reclaim it as we go. There's certainly some areas in that area where you see the conveyor belts and the trucks and the truck routes and stuff like that aren't reclaimed yet, which we need to utilize to get our trucks and equipment back to the reclaim area or the pit area. But as David mentioned, the pit area itself would be conveyor belt. We'd extend that conveyor belt out to past that WAPA line. We've worked with Western Area Power Association to minimize the impact on their footings, foundations for their big towers. Worked on the easement on that, got that all approved. So really we don't see anything different that we're doing now. All the sand when we mine it, goes up to the plant, is conveyed over to the rail loadout system, and as railed back into Sioux Falls for use. And the primary use for this sand is use in ready-mix operations around Sioux Falls.
If I might, so then the trains will take it all the way over to by the fairgrounds?
They do, yep. So they bring it over to our Rice Street distribution center out on Rice Street there. We have a ready-mix plant there, and then also rails that back into the Madison Street location too. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Jeff asked about stray bullets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Stray bullets we haven't had.
I've been out there when there was
Yeah.
a problem, and
Yep.
I think some of your equipment maybe had a couple.
They did. We haven't seen any issues. Haven't got any phone calls. No, on any of that since I've been around. So that's been 8 years ago. So.
Good to know.
Yep.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else in the audience care to speak on this item? Step forward, state your name and address, please.
I can use this, right? We live there.
Please state your name and address, sir.
Tim Skibout. 48329 259th Street. Brandon. That is our property right there. And as you can see, we're pretty well surrounded by, our biggest challenge is, I think there is, what's this gonna do to property values if I'm located right there? I mean, you don't know that, but we have concerns about that. We bought that property in 2008. We've done a lot of work there. We love it out there. And so that is really our biggest concern, is our property valuation. We also had to deal with a lot of dust and dirt at that location, and the reason is they started digging directly behind our property and bermed it up on the backside. We are at the lower part of that section, and so we get a lot of dirt and dust that comes over, just really over top of our property. So I guess my question is, I know they have a certain, I think 1,000-foot berm or whatever that they are able to do around that type of property. If there's some way they can tree it and vegetate it, so to keep the dust and the dirt down. I mean, I like the location, we're secluded, and I think it's a great location. The other concern I have is we've had to deal with a little bit of erosion this spring. Of course, we've had a lot of moisture, a lot of rain, and we get a fair amount of dirt out of there over top of our driveway and onto our lawn, et cetera. So that's really been our 2 or 3 biggest concerns with that, okay? Excuse me? The noise in the morning we started, so I could go till 8. Well, I understand that. I mean, I grew up on a farm, so I understand your concern about the noise, but there's not a lot we can do about that. I understand that. I grew up on a farm, and so I understand all the equipment running. And that really hasn't bothered me as much as probably it's bugged her a little bit, but those are my basic concerns. Anything else, dear, that, no? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak to this item? I would like to. You can, please come forward, state your name and address, please.
Michelle Van Wy, 25904 484th Avenue, Valley Springs. And I am located right, oops, if I can get it here, right here on the corner. And we had just bought this property. We're going on 3 years of living out there now, and we had great views. And I'm wondering, like, when they're digging, what they use to dig, is it blasted, or either you're just digging down in the ground? Because I'm worried about the dust from everything also. And the noise too, I guess, but mainly the dust and the erosion. And we're kind of up on a hill, and I'm wondering, so they're digging down below us, and is everything gonna, slide down? Or how do they control that? It's kind of my concerns.
We'll get the petitioner to come up again, and maybe he can address some of these items for you after the rest of the audience has gone through. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else care to speak to this item? Will the petitioner please come forward, see if you can address some of these items that they have concerns with?
Yeah, yep. So, a couple of things here on the last one. We'll start with that one first. Is this my mouse? It is. So, naturally when we mine this, we mine it with, the equipment means bulldozers and loaders, loading it onto into feeders that feed it on the conveyor, same as we have in the past. As far as the sloping and stability of this area, we have to make sure that it's sloped properly so it's not going to damage anything on the roadways. Do you see some, when you go out to the pit, go out to the area, of course, there are some things that are steeper than a 3-to-1 slope. You don't do that when you're mining it, but you do that when you reclaim it, right? When you reclaim it, we have to make sure that's all reclaimed back to a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 slope to make sure it doesn't, affect any of the outlying areas. So, when we're mining this area, will it change the view? We are obviously going after a sand deposit, which, was deposited by Mother Nature, and it was deposited up in this area right through here, and it goes up into here. There's a spot right up here, which we've done soil borings on. That sand is roughly 40 feet deep, and that's what we'd be mining, this hillside. And you can see the mining limits up there. We drew it up so it kind of comes up around this way and then through here. There really isn't any good sand, viable sand for us to use in our ready mix or other operations. So up and through here, there's not much sand left. So we would be mining up and through here, this knob, and then really the rest of this area wouldn't be touched, as the mining drawings showed on the last exhibits that David showed you. Dust. We're mining into the ground. Will wind blow, and will it be dusty at times? It will be. We do our best to water it down. Beginning of the year and midway through the season, we mag chloride the roads where we can. Obviously this year's been a challenge with all the water and all the rain. It's been a little bit of a challenge to keep up with it all. To address the ski bouts, this is the first, we've heard of a complaint from them. We'd certainly sit down and we'd certainly talk to them about what we can do to, help them with their, if they see any erosion on the backside of the berms or anything like that. I mean, we'd certainly address that right away with them. Yeah.
Any other questions for him? Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else care to speak on this item? I'm going to close the floor. Commissioners?
Madam Chair, this type of operation is a little bit testy for our neighborhood, and it's a little bit, we've had gravel pits in other areas, not this area, that never were reclaimed, that are looking pretty dismal. But I think, the family that owns this has been pretty responsible. I wish we could do something about the dust over by the fairgrounds. But I'll make a motion to approve conditional use permit 19-37.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to approve conditional use permit 19-37. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 5. Kevin?
All right. Item number 5, as read earlier, is a conditional use permit number 1940. Oh, I should say who I am. Kevin Hookman, County Planning Department. The conditional use permit is to allow a Class C 900 animal unit concentrated animal feeding operation on the property legally described as Tract 2, Anderson's Addition, in the north half section of Section 10, Township 102 North, Range 48 West. Petitioner is Wyatt Sunvold. And the site is at 48152 Palisade Street, located as on the map. The property is located approximately 3 miles north of Brandon. As stated, as 900 animal units, which would, in this case, beef, so that is 900 head of cattle, which is being requested. Some background history on this property. Some of the commissioners were here in 2015 when this petitioner applied for a 499 animal unit CAFO, and was the CAFO was approved in 2015. At that time, it was approved with conditions, one of them being that the animals be kept inside. And in 2015, an expiration date for conditional use permits was 1 year from the date of approval. And the petitioner has done some site improvements, such as clearing out some trees and putting up like an animal pen, but did not construct a building, and therefore the permit was considered expired, and that's why we're back here again today for another request. The petitioner has submitted several items for review, including a general narrative, manure management plan, site plan, grading plan, and plans for conservation district to plant trees. I'll kind of go over the highlights of the site plan. There's, in your packet, you'll see all the different items that are required on the site plan, and I'll just hit up some of the highlights. And before I go, I will note that today the staff did receive a slightly altered site plan because of the previous site plan showed trees being located on the neighbor's property, and that did not work out as planned. So the trees will now be shifted to here and an extra row of trees here. But other than that, the location of the barn and the pen is going to be the same. The dimensions of the buildings of the trees, or all the buildings on the property, the dimensions are listed as a 56-foot by 200-foot barn. The distance between the buildings of the property lines is the closest points. The barn is proposed to be about 124 feet from the west property line. The pen is currently located approximately 65 feet from the west property line, both of which meet the required 60-foot setback for parts of the CAFO. I will note, as you can kind of see in the site plan here, we have a waterway here and a river that goes right through here. That this waterway is an intermittent stream, and the petitioner's plan shows this to be approximately 265 feet that meets the setback requirements. And this right here is the West Pipescombs Creek, which is approximately 525 feet from the lot, which meets setback requirements from waterways and streams. Was a little bit of the grading that where the slope comes to, and I'll get back to that. So this is the, I thought I had a different slide in there. Back to the primary site plan, or the overall site plan. As a 900 animal unit operation, the operation is required to meet a 1,320 foot or quarter mile buffer from any dwelling, church, or business. The petitioner may reduce the setback requirement with trees that are planted and designed by the Minnehaha Conservation District or professional landscape architect. The reduction can get down to 666 feet. The setback will be met from all the property owners to the north. The property owner to right here is really close, and without a scaled drawing is too close to call. But if you recall on the site plan, the petitioner does have trees located here and here that would cover that the distance between him and the neighboring property owner. And then for the next one to the southwest, to this property here that also has a small CAFO on it. That setback has not been, is shorter than the 1,320 feet. And the petitioner proposes again trees to be located between the barn and the property line right here to reduce the setback distance. The zoning ordinance also has setback requirements from municipalities. The proposed CAFO is more than 2 miles away from the Brandon city limits, which meets the required setback for the city. In addition to setbacks, the application is required to submit other plans. The petitioner is planning on having a manure management plan, which explains how it'll be maintaining on manure on nearby fields. That'll be primarily bed pack manure and stored. The manure inside the building will be stored inside the building and spread in the fields, primarily in the fall. In spring, while the crops are not present. And it'll be incorporated with tillage. As any conditional use permit, there are conditional use permit criteria that must be considered as part of reviewing it. Criteria 1, the effect upon the use and enjoyment of the property and surrounding area for uses already permitted and upon property values in the surrounding area. This is a predominantly agricultural area. The petitioner has constructed an open pen on the lot, and you'll see some photos, and did some other improvements to the lot. Petitioner is proposing multiple ways to screen for smells and visual aspects of the CAFO as shown in the site plan. And staff would note that many of the neighbors' dwelling are located over the 1/4 mile away, even without trees. Animal production is a regular part of agricultural properties and operations. Number 2, the effect upon normal and orderly development and improvement in surrounding vacant properties for uses predominant in the area. Again, this is predominantly agriculture. Crops and livestock will likely continue to be prominent in the future, and this may benefit the crops and livestock in the area for the use of manure for fertilization on the soils. It is recognized that with intense land uses such as CAFOs, residential uses may become less desirable in close proximity to the project. Animal production is a regular part of agricultural operations, and future residential development will be required to have a right to farm notice covenant placed in the deed prior to the construction of a dwelling. Number 3, utilities, access roads, drainage, and or necessary facilities are provided. The petitioner will have to extend any new utilities. Drainage on the site will largely be maintained. And then there will be an added berm from the open pit to allow a little extra protection for flow before anything would be able to get to the waterways. Number 4, that off-street parking and loading requirements are met. There is enough space to meet off-street parking. Parking and loading in the right-of-way will not be allowed. Number 5, that measures are taken to control offensive odors, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, and lighting, inclusive of lighted signs, so that none of these will be a nuisance. It is inherent that nature of CAFO like this does have the potential to create nuisances if not managed properly. Staff finds that separation distances and tree line wind protection are effective ways to reduce nuisance issues. The petitioner has listed in the site and his narrative other items that he has improved the property upon, such as fencing and cameras on the property to keep people out of his property or to be notified if anybody comes in. Number 6, the health, safety, and general welfare of the public and comprehensive plan. The proposed CAFO will have to comply with the conditions of this permit and regulations for the 1990 revised zoning ordinance of Minnehaha County. The proposed CAFO is located firmly within an agricultural production area of the Vision 2035 comprehensive plan In this description of the designated area, goal of the Envision 2035 comprehensive plan is to protect, preserve, and promote agricultural uses and economic viability of farming operations. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit 1940 with the following conditions. And I'll read those off. The maximum size of the CAFO shall be limited to 900 animal units. The proposed trees and shelter belt must be planted in the calendar year of 2020. The facility shall conform to be submitted site plans. Any minor changes may be approved by the planning director at Minnehaha County Planning Department. Major changes will require an amendment to this permit in public hearing. The berm and trees depicted to the east of the open lot shall be extended to the south between the open animal lot and the dwellings located at 48178 Palisade Street. A building permit is required prior to the construction of the barn. And number 6, Planning and Zoning Department reserves the right to enter and inspect the CAFO at any time after proper notice of the owner to ensure the property is in full compliance with the conditional use permit conditions of approval and Minnehaha County zoning ordinance. I'll swing through some of the photos. There's a photo of the proposed barn there. So this is looking to the northeast where the barn would be located, kind of along where that storage container is. It was a muddy day when I visited the site. And this is looking down, that arrow is not correct, down towards the house to the east. You can see that it's surrounded by trees and it's well protected. And this is the penned area that the petitioner has constructed on the property with feed bunk. This is the driveway looking down the west side of the property. This also shows where the trees will be located, somewhere right along this driveway. And then this is looking again at where the barn location would be located. This is the nearest farm from the driveway of the entrance of the proposed CAFO. You'll see that he has lots of cattle there as well, and he has the farmstead is right behind this building or the house. All right, so then this is going back to the north side of the road. I took some photos from the north of the property. And that tree grove here, you can see just a few pieces of the building or the fencing. That's where the CAFO would be located. You can see the trees a little bit better here in the equipment where we were standing. And this is from closer to Highway 19, looking back up the hill across the creek. Bring it back to the main map here. Is there any questions?
Commissioners, any questions for for Kevin? Okay, is the petitioner here? Will you please come forward and state your name and address, please?
Wyatt Sunvold, 48152 Palisade Street, Brandon. Just a little history of, as Kevin mentioned, we were here in 2015 actually and applied for a permit. The reason for that barn not carrying through actually was in 2015 the ag economy slumped after we got approval. My bank required that I gained more equity ownership in the piece of land that is subject here that you can see on your screen. And actually now here I actually am the sole owner of that piece of property now. That just took place past 2 weeks. And so now we actually have enough equity ownership to carry forward with the barn project. And in that meantime, since then, I've grown my cow herd to 300 head. And I have 150 spring calving cows and 150 fall calving cows. And this project is mainly just for cow-calf operation, not for feeder cattle to take to finish. All it is designed for a calving barn. Right now I really have no calving facilities. So the past couple springs have been really tough for calving, death loss, calves in mud, sick calves and everything like that. All my cattle, or all my cows go to pasture late spring, and they're there till late fall. And then usually graze corn stalks or crop residue, stuff like that, till winter when we have to bring all of them home and feed them through the winter. My fall calving cows do come off grass about August time. They're calved and they're back out on grass within a month until winter time. And like I said earlier, all 300 head will only be on the property itself during the winter months. We applied for 900 head. That way it gives us leeway on if we have a early winter where we have to bring all the cows home, plus also have the calves in the feedlot from previous calf crop while we're still backgrounding them. As Kevin stated, I have a manure management plan in place and also have a local farmer that I currently work with that will buy the manure from me also, so we have plenty of acres for that to be spread upon. So.
Any other questions for petitioner?
Why, have you been in contact with any of the neighbors?
Yes, I
personally?
have actually. I sent out in the mailer that I had to send out, I sent a letter out and had a meeting actually at the property, answered any questions, tried to contact the closest neighbors around that site and talked with them and answered any questions they had.
What kind of response did you have from the neighbors at that time?
Most of them were concerned at 900 head. The 900 head shocked them once I talked about it was a cow-calf operation type deal. That helped, and we mentioned that the cows go out to grass in the summertime. That helped quite a bit. There's still a few concerns by some people, but I covered them as best I could when they brought them forth to me. So,
Any other questions for him? Thank you. We may ask you to come back. We'll
Yep.
see. Anyone else in the audience care to speak to this item? Will you please come forward, state your name and address?
My name is Les Tim, 361 42nd Avenue, I think, somewhere. We're about a mile from this. The other thing is about a year and a half ago, we bought the property just to the west, the 79 acres. And the biggest thing why we bought the property is the building eligibilities that were on that property. With a 320-foot setback, that property's only 1,238 feet wide, so that's a concern, and my concern with all of that is, we invested quite a bit of money in those 79 acres. I talked to Wyatt this afternoon, and, I grew up on a farm. We live on acreage on 42nd Avenue. So I've got mixed feelings a little bit. Part of the thing, what's that gonna do to our property value? That's one of the things that I'm concerned about. And the building eligibility is, my son wants to live on an acreage, and that's why we bought it. We planted some trees this spring, and the trees are, where's that thing? Right up here. So if you put enough, I'm not so hung up on the deal if you put enough trees on the lot line, on the east side. But I'm not sure what the requirement of that is. In your brochures, it says to reduce that to 660 feet, you need 5 rows of trees. Wyatt told me this afternoon, it's planning on 3 rows of trees. We moved out in the country. We live around the farmers. The farmer, Leo and Bruce Hagen farm all the way around us. Don't have an issue with that whatsoever. We both grew up on a farm. We know what that is. My son and his wife, well, my son grew up, on our acreage, but his wife grew up by Gettysburg, tied in with the Sutton Ranch and all that business. They know what cattle are. So I don't have an issue with that. But I guess what it's going to do to our property value is my one concern. And the second one is get some more trees, and I'm not sure how much teeth there's in the in the permit. I mean, if everything happens the way I'm told it's supposed to happen, I'm not that hung up on it, but I guess I just want you to know, I mean, what my concerns are, anyways.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else care to speak to this item? Please state your name and address.
I'm Darren Tim, 26414 483rd Avenue. This is Dad that just spoke. So I'm the one that he's referring to as far as building is concerned. So essentially my concerns, and I prepared a little statement for you. So we represent the family, I represent the family that owns the land directly to the west of the land that's registered under the Sunvolt Farms LLC. The property line stretches from Palisade Street, which is the southern boundary. I don't know if I need to show you guys this or not, but here's Palisade Street, here's 257th Street. So here's it'd be the east of our property boundary, the west of their property boundary. And like you said, to give you some background on myself and my family, we resided in rural Minnehaha County for over 4 decades, continue to hobby farm on an annual basis now. My understanding is that Sunvolt Farms has applied for the Class C concentrated animal feeding operation permit, and that's what we're here to review today. We do have some concerns with the proposed operation. In researching the current locations of the building eligibilities located on my family's land through the Minnehaha County Planning and Zoning Office, I was informed by Kevin Hochman, who spoke earlier, that the 2 eligibilities are located in the northwest and the southeast corners of the property. So that would put us right here would be the northwest, here would be the southeast, here's the proposed building. So well within, based on how the planning division determines where the building eligibilities are going to be located and whether or not they can be moved. If they can't be moved, we're well within that 660 feet. If they can be moved, because the property boundaries are somewhere around 1,200 feet from east to west. As my dad stated, we have planted trees this spring. We've got 7 rows that are here. To the north, it's 500 feet. To the south, it's 400 feet. So there you're looking at, a minimum setback of somewhere around 100 feet. And then based on how the Conservation District plans shelter belts, they want you to be, I think it's somewhere around 200 feet inside the last row of trees. So we'd be well within that 1,320 square feet if we're able to build where we want to build. If we can't build where we want to build, and the planning division says we have to build here where the building eligibility is, then we're well within the 660 feet. That being said, my intent is to build a home on the property and then essentially use the southern building eligibility. There's also some concerns with snow removal. I don't know if there's a snow removal plan or a manure management plan, but during the course of the previous year, I did witness snow that had been piled up over 10 feet high, so essentially a loader had been piled up, and it was placed on our property. And also there was manure piles that were placed on our property. And speaking with, we rent out the land to a young farmer. We, like Dad said, we understand farming. We've lived in the ag community for many decades now. Understand what farmers do. We also Harvey farm. We're right there with them. But so our tenant, based on this snow pile, based on the manure pile, he did suffer some crop losses due to the wetness of the field, the delayed planting opportunities, and the slow germination rate based on the corn that was being planted. It took a while for that snow pile to melt. There's also some spoiled hay and some gravel found in large amounts in the snow that was moved onto our property, which further diminished the viability of the soil. I'm unaware of the current plans for snow removal and manure management by Sunvolt Farms LLC, but I hope that he doesn't plan to pile snow or manure on our land going forward. We're also concerned that there's not a full fence along the west side of the properties. So right here, there's no fence from basically where the grass starts, down to the south. There's no fence there. Which, based on the increased number of animals, there's a possibility that they may not stay within this space, which I understand that. I mean, I've had cows on my yard, you know, within the last few years. It's not a big deal, but, I mean, luckily we haven't had any damage, you know, in our place, but it is a concern. So based on that, I guess I would ask that the Class C permit be denied. If there are questions, I certainly can answer them for you now.
Any questions for him?
Madam Chair?
Jeff?
So does your family own all the land going west from the applicant's property?
No.
Or just the south part? Do you have the whole,
It's 73 acres, you know, from 257th Street to Palisade Street, so it's a half mile. North
okay,
to
and
south.
so all the way to the west to where that other divider line is?
No, to the west, this is Berkman property.
Yeah,
over here.
but the line right to the, next to that,
This here?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So actually, I think if you have two eligibilities there, staff, are they can be anywhere in that whole area. And in fact, if you were to buy the next property to the west, they could be moved further west if you chose, but they could be anywhere in that acreage that you
Sure.
have.
Yeah, good to know.
Okay, any other questions for him?
Madam Chair,
No?
when you family purchased that ground, did you have any concerns to the farm just to the south across the road as far as what it might do to your property value then?
The Thorsons? This farm, this one here?
Yes.
No, I mean,
Oh, why didn't that one versus one where you have a nice building being put up? I just have a hard time, you know, you're complaining about one thing, but the one that's existing that doesn't have the buildings that the cattle will be in, that didn't affect you.
these aren't confined, to my
that.
understanding. A little bit different, but no, I'm not concerned about that property.
Okay, any other questions for him? Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Petitioner, you want to come forward? Can you address any of the items that he was referring to?
Oh, yeah, first
Snow
off.
removal, whatever.
Yeah, first off, I'd like to apologize for that. I guess I wasn't brought up on a problem of it at all. This past winter and spring was really wet, and there was, to my knowledge, there was never any manure in there. It was loose hay that of a broken bale and mud from our yard that might have got in there. In the early April blizzard, we had a big drift come across our driveway that we had to push it out to get in there somehow and push it off to the edge. The township actually was in that field with permission from the landlord or the tenant or the landowner to actually run windrows east and west across the road, and then they ran one running north and south to try and block, here if we can, they ran it north and south going along my driveway currently there to block any drifts coming across the road because it was drifting across the road so bad this past spring. Snow removal from here on out can be kept on our own property. We have a manure management plan that I've turned into Kevin that you guys should have a copy of as well. So,
Can you address the fence he was referring to?
and I think Kevin and I mentioned, or I talked to Kevin earlier, when he was out at the site actually, and that is in our long-term plan within the next year to build a fence along there. Everything else around the property is either in the process right now of getting rebuilt or is rebuilt of a 4-strand fence at minimum, so.
Okay, any other questions for him? Thank you. Anyone else in the audience care to address this item? I'm going to close the floor.
Madam Chair,
Jeff?
I guess I understand the concerns of the neighbors there, and I know that Wyatt has heard their concerns also. But I'm going to make a motion to approve conditional permit 19-40.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve conditional use permit 19-40. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Number 7, David?
Good evening, Planning Commission. David Heinold, County Planning Department. Conditional use permit 19-42 is to allow a rubble site for storage, processing, and transport of wood products. This property is actually, it's owned by Minnehaha County. It's located roughly about 4 miles west of Sioux Falls city limits. It's right on the county highway. As you can see to the south, that there's the county highway road, and then the Township Road, which is actually the road that has the primary access for this site right here to get into the existing operations there's sheriff's training area, there's a couple drop-off sites, as well as this property right here is home to the RC Flyers Club model airplanes, and there's a few other things on this site as well. In addition to the applicant's request to allow the proposed rubble site, which would be located right where the cursor is, right to the north of that, in between both of those two uses on the site. The narrative does explain that the applicant plans to collect non-treated dry wood and conventional and wet wood trees from the public to grind up and sell mulch. The hours of operation for the proposed use would be 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and the public hours of operation would be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. to noon on Saturday. Staff did visit the site on September 10th. The proposed use is appropriate for the surrounding area with the adequate setbacks from the property boundaries. A majority of the area is agricultural. There are a few residential homes in the area just located to the immediate east of where the proposed rubble site would be located. As you can see, one house is located here, and then the rest are actually located to the south and to the southwest of the property. There is existing gravel mining operation to the south, across the highway and the creek itself, and then to the south. And there is additional gravel mining to the northwest. I did have a concern that was brought forth for future gravel mining. Explained to him that this is a proposed rubble site for wood products, or transporting and processing wood products on site. Excuse me. This property does have its own locking security gate on site, as it is a county property, for other uses. So I have taken a few pictures of the site. This is the site plan showing where those areas would be separated out for the dry and wet wood. The applicant has included on the site plan an additional driveway onto the township road. For your information, I did receive a call from one of the supervisors, Pat Doyle from Wayne Township, just to bring some of those concerns forward that they had they were concerned about the applicant not applying for a driveway permit for a new driveway because the site plan is posted online, so they have people have access to that so they can see that ahead of time. That was one of the concerns, and the other concerns that was brought forth was he believes that the driveway should be located off the county highway and not the township road, because there's a concern about that township road and the impact for truck traffic and cars on that road. And skipping forward to the road itself that I'm mentioning, which is gravel, as you can see in this image, this is looking north. The house is off to the right in this image. That's the one house there. And then off to the left, you can see that's the main entrance into the county property. That does have a gate there, which is locked. And as you can see, this is looking back south. You see the gate there with the truck. Off to the distance here, there is a substation that's located to the west of, to the east of this property, or to the left of this image as well, near that house location. This is actually on site, so you can see off to the south, that would be the proposed area. There's a parking area that the applicant has indicated closer to the road where people would park their cars and trailers and such. So this is looking a closer in view. You can see in the background that would be the location of where the wood products would be stored and processed and transported. This is looking back south. This is from the very far north of the property, so it gives you a full zoomed out view. There is an existing tree belt there. Then looking off to the right there, that's where that processing area would be. You can kind of see the truck in the background. There's actually a road that goes all the way back around the outside of that. This is where that processing area would be, as a full view. So staff does review these conditional use permit criteria with the 5 criteria. 1, that the effect upon the use and enjoyment of other property in the surrounding area for the uses already permitted and upon property values within the surrounding area. As you mentioned, the few residential homes in the surrounding area, including the 2 that are across the street to the east, that will be affected by the proposed use of wood grinding, processing, and transport of wood products. The subject property has supplied the established tree shelter belts along 467th Avenue that could serve as a visual buffer, as well as any potential noise that could occur. However, the petitioner does not have a plan for screening the vehicle parking, which is actually located right up next to the road, and staff would want that to be at least 15 feet away from the front property line to be in conformance with the zoning ordinance. 2, that the effect upon the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. The area is primarily agricultural land, gravel pits, and a few residential homes in the surrounding area. So there should be no effect on the normal and orderly development of surrounding vacant property, which is determined on the availability of building eligibilities. 3, that utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities are provided. The site plan shows that there is access off 467th Avenue. However, they do not show any directions for how traffic is going to be moving around for customer pickup and drop-off. So there should be a consideration for having some kind of signage to direct people around which way they're supposed to go, especially if there is to be an additional driveway that is located off of the township road if they are to gain permission from the township, which would be pending their decision. At a minimum, directional sign, all the necessary facilities have been provided as a result of the existing infrastructure for county-owned property. Petitioner will be required to extend any of their utilities to the site for their proposed operation. 4, that the off-street parking and loading requirements are met. The narrative does state that you have received majority of traffic will be deliveries and pickups, which the applicant should provide a turnaround point within the site area itself. There should be 2 parking spaces per 3 employees on maximum shift near the site. The site is large enough to accommodate any parking needs, and no parking shall be allowed within the township right away at any time. The site plan does show the parking area that's located parallel to 467th Avenue. 5, that measures are taken to control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, and lighting, inclusive of lighted signs, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance. The processing of trees into wood products will create noise and visual sight disturbances for houses in the immediate area and road traffic as well. The applicant has set the grinding area back well off the township road to take advantage of these measures to help control fumes, dust, noise, and vibration for those nearby homes. Staff suggests that the hours of operation will also reduce nuisance effects and limit concerns of extra traffic to and from the property. Property should be maintained with a gate or a person on site during the operating hours to prevent any unwanted people on site. And 6, health, safety, and general welfare of the public in the comprehensive plan. The public health, safety, and general welfare will not be negatively harmed by the proposed project. It may be of great importance for the county to have facilities such as this to recycle waste wood. With the onset of emerald ash borer found in the county, the proposed project will be beneficial by creating a close location for area arborists to drop waste wood products and to have them recycled into useful manner, mulch product. The Envision 2035 Comprehensive Plan, goal number 1 of the Future Land Use Plan section states to develop countywide land use pattern that ensures compatibility and functional relationships among jurisdictions and and related land use activity. Therefore, a change in the land use designation of the subject property is appropriate because of the proposed use for processing of trees into wood products is in the long-term interest of the county. Staff finds that the proposed use conforms to the goals and policies of the Envision 2035 Comprehensive Plan, so staff recommends approval of conditional use permit 19-42 with the following conditions. And 1, that the property shall adhere to the submitted site plan. 2, the process of grinding wood shall take place during the hours of 8 a.m. through 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. 3, all driveways and driving paths on the site must be gravel surface. 4, only clean, untreated, unpainted, and unstained wood shall be accepted for processing. No other materials shall be accepted. 5, the operation must maintain a gate or a person on site during drop-off hours to prevent dumping of non-wood products. 6, the operation will be allowed to operate under the conditions of this permit until January 31st, 2030. The business owner will be required to obtain another conditional use permit before the state if they wish to continue operating at this location. And 7, that the Planning and Zoning Department reserves the right to enter and inspect the site at any time after the proper notice to the owner to ensure that the property is in full compliance with the conditional use permit conditions of approval and the Minnehaha County zoning ordinance. So I'd answer any questions if you have them. Thank you.
Any questions, commissioners?
Madam Chair, I have a couple. So one of my questions is, I'm not an arborist, but I know there's some issues about untreated, thank you, about untreated wood in the emerald ash borer. Is there a chance that this would need to be treated to make sure that we are not spreading it when it goes back out into the community as mulch? It's not my area of expertise, so I'd like to know about that.
Petitioner could probably clarify, but one of the conditions would be that it's only untreated wood.
Madam Chair, maybe I can
Mike?
interject here quick.
No
My understanding is
untreated
that you
wood.
can't, this is my understanding, at least of
No.
the rules, that you can't transport ash between Memorial Day and Labor Day to kind of help prevent that. So, I believe that's the current regulation.
We also work with the USDA to approve transport groundwood all year round on that.
Sir, you can comply with that when we ask you to come forward, okay?
Yeah, we need, this is for broadcast, honestly. A dozen people will watch this later.
Questions for David? Okay, is the petitioner here? Will you please come forward, state your name and address?
Good evening. I'm Margaret Muller. I'm the sole owner of Muller Pallets. I hope all of you had no tornado damage, but if you did, you probably visited one of our sites. I brought my lawyer, Patrick Glover, and the two faces that kind of represent my company in our community. I have my son, Philip Muller, and then Chad Fodness, and they've done a lot of work on getting this site kind of located and stuff like that, and we can answer any questions. But I'd really like my employees to shine, if I could, please. Thank you.
Stay up there.
Will you please stay up, so in case there's any questions, please?
I have a couple, Madam Chair.
Jeff?
I really have a concern from Pat Doyle on that township road. The township roads have been really brutalized this year, and, you know, I think he has a legitimate point there. Is there anything that you might consider doing to keep that road in good shape? I know that we had Jim Sukup open a gravel pit to the north of you on 261st and 466th, and he's going to be keeping that road 261 up to a certain extent.
We are currently moving out of that pit, that location. We're renting from Jim Sukup right now.
That's down south, though. That's south of where you are now, right?
Oh,
I was thinking about his new pit that he wants to do.
oh, I'm sorry, I
yeah.
don't know.
But
his
you
business
currently are
dealings.
like 2 miles south of where you are proposing this? You're mile and a half? I don't know.
On Sand Street,
Yeah,
yes,
and thank you for your work down there.
thank
But
you.
That Hall Road is a bit of a problem for me, and I know that 466th, we're trying to keep truck traffic off of it. We have regular complaints about the gravel pits we permitted on the north end of that are verboten from driving on it, but still others are not, and so they get dump trucks driving up and down that don't belong to the gravel pits that we regulated.
Correct. We have a location which we call Shatter, which is south of my business on the T exit. And we give the county certain funds for calcium chloride. I don't know if that is something
That's helpful. I
that might
guess
that might help this situation.
I worry, I guess, a little bit. Do you think that you might be able to make a deal with the township there?
Oh, I
Ryan
know we will.
Township?
We work with communities in 4 states. There will not be a lot of grinding on this property. It's not like every day we grind on these properties. We kind of pull in, but our grinders are pull with semis, and we go into communities all within a 150-mile radius. So the grinder is not at the property 12
Sure.
hours a day.
Well, I would really, if we're going to use the township road, I'd really like for you guys to have an agreement with the township on that.
I would like to as well.
Okay, I think we've got a good idea there. And the stuff you're gonna be grinding up does not have nails in it generally, right? I mean, you're not taking.
I'd love for you to come out and see our cool equipment. Our equipment has magnets on them. And pretty much my business is a zero waste recycling company. We've been recycling before recycling was cool. But these grinders have magnets on the end, and they take out all the unwanted steel out of the loads because our customer doesn't want the steel as well. They can't burn it.
I love to hear that. In fact, we might want to come out and look at that during our next economic bus ride around town.
We love visitors.
We just heard one where they had a grain processing plant, and they had magnets there that would pull out any little bits of steel from whatever.
Well, we've had this in the works for a few weeks, but tonight we're going to announce that we have a new grinder coming. So hopefully we can get Sioux Falls cleaned up a little bit faster next Monday. So you'll have to come and see the new grinder. They're pretty cool.
Leave Scott your business card. So then, what about the emerald ash borer?
We've been dealing with that for quite a while in Iowa and Minnesota as well. We carry like a badge with the USDA, and so we have to carry a little screener thing, and your wood chips have to go to a certain size. I believe it's 1.5 inches, under 2 inches, and they can literally check your load. And if you don't meet the specs, then your load, you get in trouble. And we're doing 1,000 tons a week, so we've gotten pretty good at dealing with the emerald ash borer the last few years.
That's wonderful. Go ahead.
Any other questions for her?
Madam Chair, I have
Yep.
one. This might be something you've never heard before, but you have several of these sites around, you said.
We do. I would say we probably have 75 locations in 4 states.
Okay. Do you ever have, to me, you pile up wood. It's a great breeding ground for rodents. Has that ever been a big issue? So we
I've
need to
never
add
seen it.
a rodent control in the,
We normally go like on a rotation. So like, our furthest out, I believe, is Plymouth County landfill. And they will call us and say, hey, we got X amount of loads. They have to have so many loads, and we go in, and then we kind of go on a rotation. Right now, we're out of rotation because we've had a tornado. When there's a tornado, we drop everything and we run to that community, whether it's Pilger, Nebraska, or Sioux Falls. So that's kind of the way we do our business. But I personally have never seen rodents. We go through the wood pretty fast. It's, what is it, 9 loads a day? 9 semi-loads a day, 52 weeks a year.
okay, so basically this road, or the wood is, ground up and it's out of there.
Yep,
Okay.
burned
Okay.
at Poet.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for her?
Madam Chair, I really feel that this is a great project. I would like there to be a township agreement put in as a condition. And, you know, if you can't get an agreement, come back to us and maybe we'll still find a way to get it done. But
We try to keep this a free service to the community. This is my community. I grew up here, so I'm pretty a community activist, I guess you should say. And we wanted to do this as a free service to people to take their waste wood and stuff. And obviously, we're in business to make money. But we're in a great partnership with Poet and farmers, landscapers. So we got the wood kind of going every which way.
I think that if you talk to them reasonably, you probably will be able to accomplish this. And, you know,
Okay.
wood chips are an important ingredient for in agriculture to take nitrates out of tile water. There's a bioreactor that they use to run tile water through, and it goes in at 80 parts per million and comes out at 3 or something like that. And I bet you could sell it to those people.
We did a similar project in Sioux City with that, a few years ago.
Great.
But we would love to have you all come and watch some really cool equipment.
Well, Madam Chair, I guess I'd like to make a motion to ask that there be a township agreement on the Hall Road.
That as number 8 is a condition?
Yeah, I would like to. I don't know if I would have support from the rest of you guys.
I'll
Is it-
second that.
Okay.
If
A
you-
motion's been made and seconded to approve conditional use permit 19-4, no, pardon me, 19-42, except add the additional condition number 8 to have an agreement with the township officials for the road. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
No old business?
I'll just make a quick report on, so as your last meeting was on the 26th of August. On the 27th, we had our hearing with the city of Hartford, our joint city-county hearing. And at that time, the county commission didn't support, at this point, the joint jurisdiction and requested that Hartford do maybe a better job of outreach to the neighbors. So they're sort of going back to the drawing board and going to be working with having some neighborhood meetings, and then we'll start the process over again. So I just wanted to give you a quick update on that.
It failed on a 4-1 vote with, I voted in favor of it. And let me also say that I've talked to the Hartford people since then, and their own citizens have been calling them to say, shame on you for even trying to do that. So people don't understand what's going on.
And I did talk to, or chatted with Teresa Seidel, the city manager, via email today, and they are looking at having a preliminary neighborhood meeting on the 29th of October. But when and where hasn't been decided yet. They're meeting tomorrow night with their planning commission to hammer out the details. But I wanted to just let you know, and then you will certainly be invited to attend. I'm gonna go to attend, but it's probably not critical that you attend, but I just will make you aware of it.
Okay, is there any new business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.